There's a monk in the mountains of Japan who hasn't slept past 3 a.m. in 40 years. And the strangest part? His brain scans look 20 years younger than they should. Scientists flew in from 3 different countries just to study him. What they found changed everything we thought we knew about the human mind. If you're the kind of person who loves stories that flip your entire perspective on life, hit that subscribe button right now and smash the bell. Because this channel is built for people who want to think deeper, live sharper, and understand what most people never even ask about. Every single week, we go places most creators won't, so don't miss it. Now, let's get into this. His name was Brother Kenji, and he wasn't famous. He wasn't on social media, he wasn't selling a course or writing a book. He lived in a wooden temple tucked so deep into the hills of Kyoto that most locals had never even heard of it. No electricity after sundown, no heat in winter, a bed made of straw mats and a single wool blanket. And every single morning, without a clock, without an alarm, without fail, he opened his eyes at exactly 3 a.m. He rose from the floor. He walked barefoot to a stone basin of cold water. He washed his face, and then he sat in complete silence for 2 straight hours before the rest of the world even stirred. Now, here's what I want you to understand before we go any further. This isn't a story about religion. It's not about monks or temples or ancient rituals for the sake of it. This is a story about the brain, your brain, and what happens to it during those specific hours of the night that modern science is only now beginning to understand. What Brother Kenji stumbled onto through 40 years of devotion, researchers at the University of Rochester confirmed in a landmark 2019 study, and the implications of what they found are so staggering that several neuroscientists said publicly it was the most important sleep discovery of the decade. But let me back up, because to understand why 3 a.m. matters, you first have to understand what's happening in your brain right now while you're watching this, while you're conscious and moving and thinking and existing in the world. Your brain is on fire. It is burning through fuel. It's generating waste products, literally toxic proteins and metabolic byproducts that build up in the spaces between neurons. Think of it like an engine running all day. The engine works hard, it produces exhaust, and that exhaust has to go somewhere. In your brain, that somewhere is a system most people have never heard of, and it only activates under very specific conditions. That system is called the glymphatic system, and it is the reason Brother Kenji's brain looked the way it did. Here's where it gets wild. The glymphatic system is essentially your brain's built-in cleaning crew. It floods your neural tissue with cerebrospinal fluid during deep sleep, flushing out all the toxic debris that accumulated during the day. The amyloid plaques linked to Alzheimer's disease, the tau proteins linked to cognitive decline, the inflammatory markers linked to depression and anxiety and brain fog. All of it gets washed away. But here's the part that nobody talks about. This cleaning process doesn't happen evenly throughout the night. It peaks, it absolutely surges. Between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m., the glymphatic system operates at roughly 60% greater efficiency than at any other point in the sleep cycle. Your brain is not just resting during those hours, it is in full emergency restoration mode. And if you're unconscious and sleeping deeply during that window, your brain gets cleaned. If you're awake, scrolling your phone, watching TV, lying there with anxious thoughts at 2:30 in the morning, that cleaning process gets interrupted. And over time, the buildup begins, slowly, quietly, invisibly. Now, I have to stop here for a second, because what I just told you raises a very uncomfortable question. And that question is this. If the brain is doing its most critical restoration work between 1 and 4 a.m., then what exactly was Brother Kenji doing? He was waking up at 3 a.m. every single day. He was interrupting that window on purpose, and yet his brain was exceptional. So either the science is wrong or something else is happening, something the researchers weren't expecting. something that took them completely off guard when they finally sat down and looked at his data. When the team of neuroscientists first arrived at the temple, they were politely skeptical. They brought portable EEG equipment, blood panels, cognitive tests, reaction time assessments, the kind of battery they use on elite athletes and fighter pilots. Brother Kenji sat through all of it without complaint and without curiosity. He was 81 years old. He moved like a man of 60. His recall was sharp. His processing speed was in the top 5 percentile for men half his age. His inflammatory biomarkers were nearly non-existent, and his cortisol levels, the stress hormone that slowly erodes the hippocampus over time, were almost flat, like a teenager's. The lead researcher, Dr. Amara Osei, said in an interview afterward that she had studied hundreds of subjects over a 20-year career, and she had never seen a cognitive profile like his. She said it was, in her words, deeply humbling. But the EEG data is where things got truly strange, because what they found wasn't that Brother Kenji was somehow bypassing the need for glymphatic restoration. He wasn't superhuman. He wasn't biologically different. What they found was that his sleep architecture was unlike anything in the existing literature. Most people follow a predictable pattern. You fall asleep, you cycle through light sleep, deep sleep, REM, about 90 minutes per cycle, 4 to 6 cycles a night, normal, expected, boring. Brother Kenji's brain did something different. In the hours between when he went to sleep around 9 p.m. and when he woke at 3 a.m., his brain compressed, it stacked. It ran through deep sleep cycles faster and with dramatically greater intensity than a typical sleeper. His slow wave sleep, the deepest, most restorative stage, was twice as long per cycle as the average adult. His brain had essentially learned over decades of practice to front-load the restoration, to do in 6 hours what most brains need 8 or 9 to accomplish. And then he woke at exactly 3 a.m., at the precise moment when his brain had finished its most critical work. And here's where the story takes a turn that nobody saw coming, because the question then became, well, okay, maybe he just wakes up and meditates, and that's nice, but what's the actual neurological impact of those 2 hours of 3 a.m. silence? Is it just peaceful? Is it just tradition? Or is something measurable happening in that pre-dawn stillness that explains the rest of his profile? Dr. Osei and her team wired him up during his practice. They watched the readings in real time. And what they observed during those 2 hours of seated silent meditation beginning at 3 a.m. was a brain state that almost doesn't exist in the modern world. His default mode network, the part of your brain that runs your inner monologue, your rumination, your self-referential thoughts, went almost completely quiet. His prefrontal cortex, the seat of executive function and clarity, lit up with calm, steady, low-frequency activity. His amygdala, your brain's threat detection center, the thing that keeps you anxious and reactive and exhausted, was nearly silent. And his theta wave activity, which is associated with creativity, insight, and the hypnagogic state between waking and sleeping, was through the roof. He was in a state that experienced meditators take years to reach, sometimes decades, and he was doing it naturally, effortlessly, simply because of the hour. Here's what I want you to really sit with. At 3 a.m., the world is quiet in a way that it is no other time. There are no notifications, no traffic, no ambient noise, no social performance, no one needing anything from you. The electromagnetic noise of modern civilization, the hum of devices, the invisible pressure of always being reachable, drops to its lowest point of the entire day. And your nervous system, if you are awake and calm at that hour, rather than anxious or sleep-deprived, responds. It drops into a parasympathetic state with a depth and speed that is nearly impossible to achieve at any other time in the day. Your heart rate variability improves, your cortisol flatlines, your brainwave frequency slows to that magical theta range, and you access a version of your own mind that is simply not available during daylight hours. A version that is clearer, more creative, more emotionally regulated, and more connected to something deeper than the noise of everyday life. Brother Kenji had never read a neuroscience paper. He didn't know what theta waves were. He had no idea what the glymphatic system was.
He was simply doing what his teachers taught him and what their teachers taught them, stretching back 800 years of monastic tradition that had quietly, accidentally, precisely optimized the human brain. Not because they were lucky, because they were paying attention. For centuries, these monks observed what the practice did to people. They saw who stayed sharp into old age and who didn't. They refined the ritual based on results, and what they landed on, without a single piece of modern equipment, was a protocol that neuroscience in the 21st century is now racing to catch up to. Now, let me be clear about something, because I can already hear the question forming in your head. You're not going to wake up at 3 a.m. every day. I'm not going to wake up at 3 a.m. every day. That's not the point. Brother Kenji spent 40 years building that capacity. He didn't start at 3 a.m. He started, according to the monastery's records, at 6 a.m., then 5:30, then 5 a.m., a slow, patient, decade-long migration toward the edge of the night, and with each shift, he reported that his thinking became sharper, his emotional reactions became smaller, his sense of inner peace became less fragile. He wasn't hacking his biology, he was learning